If you clicked on this video, you were either looking to upgrade from a Glowforge to a larger laser, or you're thinking about starting with a Thunder laser versus a Glowforge because you've either heard that a Glowforge can't run a business, or you've heard some complaints about customer service, or you're just trying to think ahead about what is the most bang I can get for my buck when I buy a laser. And one of the things that you keep coming across when people are talking about Glowforge versus Thunder laser is power and speed and bed size. And you want to know if there's something more that you should be considering. I'm going to talk today about 5 things that I think are really interesting about the Thunder laser ecosystem that make it a really great option if you are someone who is interested in having more control over your projects. If that sounds like you, stick around. Hi, I'm Katie and this is Things Katie Makes. We talk all things lasers and specifically laser businesses. If you are trying to start a laser business, I have a whole playlist of conversations with other laser business owners. And I also have a Facebook group that we're just starting up called Laser Maker School, and you can find the description in the link below to go join us in that conversation there. When I was 15 and got my driver's permit in Colorado, I learned to drive on a manual transmission. Now, probably a lot of you have never driven a manual car, but if you have, you understand the difference between the power and the control that you have when you're driving a manual car versus an automatic car. And that is what I like to think of as an analogy for using a Glowforge versus using a Thunder laser. You have so much more control over different facets and aspects of your projects with your Thunder laser. And some of that is specific to the software that you use, but a lot of it is specific to how the machine is designed. You can see that I still have this in my office. This is in the space that my Glowforge formerly held. My Glowforge is now across the room, but a Nova 24 can fit in your home. Now, I will say you will probably want to hire movers if you're gonna bring it up the stairs because it's 300 pounds and quite awkward. But once it's in your home, it's easy to use it within your home. You vent out the window, similarly to what you would do with a Glowforge. So what are those 5 key things I think make the Thunder laser a great option for you that are not speed, power, and bed size? The first one is that you have a Z-axis. So in your Glowforge, you can only use materials that are up to 2 inches, even when you take the crumb tray out. In your Thunder laser, you have a Z-axis, so your bed moves down. So you can actually engrave materials that are much, much larger. One of the things I was absolutely most excited about in getting my Thunder laser was the ability to get a rotary so that I can do cups and tumblers. I have not tackled that yet, but I will be soon. That was one thing I was super excited about, was just even having that option. But also, if you find a cool object that's a little bit deeper, let's say you want to engrave on the bottom of a bowl, so something that's slightly larger, you find anything that you want to put an engraving on, you can probably find a way to fit it because of that Z-axis. The second aspect of your Thunder laser that I think really, really gives you the opportunity to dial in the results that you want to get from your projects is that it comes with a dual air assist capability. So you can define how much air is coming out of the laser head as you're creating a project. When you're doing cutting, you want high air. You want to make sure that you aren't setting anything on fire as you're moving at a low speed and a high power. So you want that air really blowing into where your laser is cutting. But when you're engraving, you may not want as much air. Also, when you're cutting acrylic, you don't need as much air because you aren't creating as much dust. You aren't getting those likely fire particles sparking. So you don't need as much air, and you can really dial this in. Robert Kofed from Computer Creations has a great video where he actually installed a PSI meter, so he can really dial that in, fine tune it to make sure that he gets the exact result that he wants on his projects. The next feature that I really love about my Thunder laser is that there are different heads available for your laser. So with your standard purchase, you'll receive 2. You'll receive a 2-inch head with a 2mm opening and a 2-inch head with a 6mm opening. These allow you to diffuse the air differently in your cuts and your engravings. So if you are doing an acrylic cut, you may want to use that 6mm opening to diffuse that air more over that cut and to get those really, really smooth buttery lines as you're moving really slow with lower power. If you need to focus the air more into that cut, you'll use that 2mm opening. Additionally, you can get a 4-inch head that has a 10mm focus distance. This will allow you to cut larger materials. If you have something that's thicker than the standard materials that you might cut, you're typically cutting 1/8 inch up to 1/4 inch on your Glowforge, you can do a 1/2 inch with that 4-inch head. Additionally, you can get a high resolution head for engraving. This will allow you to engrave up to 1,800 lines per inch. That's crazy. Typically, I don't do more than about 400 lines per inch, and that's still a really fine engraving. So if you need to do really, really detailed engravings, if you're doing some of those 3D imitation engravings, or if there's just some really fine detail that you need to get, that HR head will allow you to do that. This is one of my favorite features, that you have so much control over how your projects will turn out by being able to use these different heads in different ways. And because you have these different things, like your manual car, you need to learn how to use them. Learning how to use them will give you better control over your outcomes of your projects. As I was using my Glowforge, I didn't always know exactly what it was doing or why. And I knew what things I could control, but I wasn't really comfortable messing with them as much as I am with my Thunder Laser, because I understand each of the components much better. With having these different options, I've had to do more investigation and think more about what I'm doing before I do it. So that may be a consideration if you are just getting started with a laser. One thing I really like about a Glowforge as a beginner laser is you don't need to worry so much about all the different inputs if you were to have something not be the result that you want. There's not as many inputs that you can adjust. Once you're confident in the results that you're getting, or if you're someone who really just likes that level of control and really likes to study and learn, because there's lots and lots of resources out there, the Thunder Laser gives you much more control and precision in those decisions that you're making about your projects. As I move from my Glowforge to my Thunder Laser, I know what a specific engraving could look like, and I know what I might want to change. So first I might try to just achieve that same result that I got on my Glowforge, and then dial in settings differently on my Thunder to see how I can modify that to my liking. But all of those different heads give me more opportunities to do things differently. Running your Thunder Laser, you don't run it from a proprietary software. Thunder Laser runs off of LightBurn. That is the integrated software that sends your designs to the machine and tells it how to make them happen. LightBurn is not specific to Thunder Laser, so there's lots and lots of information available about LightBurn out in the internet, and it is continually being upgraded, so there's always new features coming out. One of my favorite things in LightBurn is how simple it is to control the different settings for each area of your project. It doesn't need to be defined by the design when you bring it in, and you don't need to manipulate it in the same way that you're manipulating something in your Glowforge software. So you can control the air, you can control the lines per inch, you can control whether something this time is a fill or a cut. So there is a lot of control that you have within LightBurn software to make your projects your own. I really love this software. It has some design capabilities. I'm quite comfortable in Adobe Illustrator, so I haven't really been using those. But when I do need to make a change or a modification, it's quite simple to do in LightBurn. It has some very similar features to something like Adobe Illustrator. It's also not cloud-based, so it is on your desktop. So if your Wi-Fi is not available, that's okay. And you transfer your files from LightBurn to your machine either via USB, a USB stick, or Ethernet. All those options are available to you. You don't need to send your designs to the cloud for them to then communicate to your machine over Wi-Fi. So there are some things that I really like about the Glowforge software being cloud-based, in that it's constantly being updated. And so as a new feature comes out, it's right there the minute that I go into the app. The LightBurn software is really powerful, and I like that it's not specific to Thunder Laser, so there's always different things that you can learn from other people who have different lasers. Just really expands your capabilities. So the last thing that might make Thunder Laser a great consideration for you if you're looking for that upgrade from your Glowforge, or if you're ready to just dive headfirst into laser ownership, is the customer support. One thing that you'll find is that the actual support people are active in the Facebook groups for Thunder Laser, and they're really easy to get a hold of. You start out with an initial 1-hour training that you can schedule at your convenience, and you can cover whatever you want to cover. So I waited a little while after I had played around with a few things because I was pretty confident based on watching some of the videos that I had seen and with just my knowledge in general on getting started. So I waited a little while to have my 1-hour call. And in my 1-hour call, I was able to go through all of my different accessories, what they're for, how to maximize them, cleaning recommendations and tips, and through my LightBurn settings to see if there was anything I was missing or anything that I could do better. And it was such a valuable hour. I learned so much so quickly, and it really made it simpler for me to continue to move forward. Additionally, I've heard lots of stories from my friends who have had minor things go wrong with their machine, and within an hour, they're on a video chat with someone from technical support to get them up and running again. Having that basis of support right there for you as you're investing in this bigger, more powerful machine is so wonderful to know that you have that great support team behind you. And there are weekly support calls that you can watch and you can see what they're talking about and what they're working on. Everything from delivery to updating the installation instructions for getting people started. I have found that the Thunder Laser communities are very active and people are very, very quick to help other people, even if they have a different power or size of laser. So for all of those reasons that aren't power, speed, and bed size, which obviously are great things to consider when you're thinking about your overall laser expectations and what you need to support your laser business or just your laser hobby, you might want to get a much bigger laser. I didn't need one. I don't like making really big things, and I also wanted something that fit into my office space. This also has a pass-through, which I didn't have. I have a Glowforge Plus, so I can get a lot bigger things in here, although it might be complex in this room. But without even those considerations, just being able to more fine-tune my projects, use more depth, these are things I'm so excited to play around with, and I can't wait to take you along the journey. We will definitely be talking about all the different things as I learn them, going through my tips and tricks and things that I probably could have done differently when I started, or things that I'm learning along the way. I hope that this has been informative for you. If you have questions, please reach out to me either here or on Instagram. That's where I'm most active, and I'd love to answer your questions, especially if you are someone who's looking to move from a Glowforge to a Thunder Laser, or if you're someone who is thinking about just diving headfirst into a Thunder Laser. I would love to connect with you. You can find me at Laser Maker School on Facebook if that's a place where you might want to interact with other people who are really working at creating their laser businesses. If you want to see how a laser can really change your life in terms of a business and business success, I have a video that I filmed recently with Sarah Heap from Heap Design Co. And she talks about how she went from her Glowforge to her Thunder Laser and what her journey as a business owner has looked like. Go check it out.